Do you feel like your metabolism is sluggish? Maybe you've tried to reset it with cleanses, detoxes, supplements, or diets, but you're still worn out and the weight hangs on. If you think your metabolism is slowing down, then this episode is for you. Stay tuned and we'll talk about why you can eat like a bird, wear out your tennis shoes walking, and still battle belly fat and fatigue.
Healthy isn't just what you do, it's who you become. I'm Dr. Vickie, and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast to help you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your well-being. Life tested, doctor approved.
What do you think of when you think of slow metabolism? Thyroid problems? Age? Maybe menopause? You want to know a little secret? Muscle is the most valuable player of the metabolic health game. But what is metabolism anyway? Let's go straight to mini medical school and learn some basics. Metabolism is simply all the chemical reactions that keep you alive and functioning. Okay, this is mini medical school. We're going to have to go a little deeper than that. Metabolism is how your body turns food into usable energy. Yes, energy to get up and go, but also energy for basic operations like breathing, thinking, moving, and pumping blood to all your organs. There's also repair work that needs to be done throughout your body, and that takes energy too. So does digestion and temperature regulation, which is called the thermic effect. Basal metabolic rate, or BMR, means the calories your body burns just to exist, just to keep breathing and keep your heart beating and your brain active. Metabolism works round the clock to build up tissues with amino acids, and that's called anabolism. And it breaks down nutrients, which is catabolism. Catabolism, metabolism, say what? Here's the deal. The breakdown of protein, fats, and carbohydrates for energy doesn't always occur at the same rate. If you have a fast basal metabolic rate, you burn a lot of calories, even if you're doing absolutely nothing. But if your metabolism is slow, then you just don't need as many calories to sustain operations. And that's why two people can eat the exact same amount, and one struggles with weight and the other doesn't. Or at least it's one reason. Now look, I could stand to lose a few pounds, but you really would not even believe how much I eat. One time after a meal where I ate twice as much as my husband, I asked him if he wondered why I wasn't way overweight. And he said, "No, because I know you're going to burn it off in the next hour." And he's right. I'm usually buzzing around like the Energizer Bunny. But for all of us, muscle burns more calories than fat, even at rest. And more importantly, it keeps your metabolic engine responsible and flexible. Of course, it takes movement to get muscle. We'll get to that. There are some medical disorders of metabolism like polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolic syndrome, and thyroid problems. And what you eat has a tremendous impact too. Think of it in terms of efficiency. Your body needs energy. So if you feed it fuel that readily provides energy, then your body is a well-oiled machine. When your diet is heavy in junk foods, your metabolism becomes less efficient. Not because calories don't count, but because hormones like insulin and leptin stop communicating clearly. If you're eating junk food, then your body is struggling to convert that efficiently. Hold up a minute. We're not talking about willpower, but since you mentioned it, we are 2 months into the Healthy Looks Great on You lab, and women are finding success by relying on systems instead of willpower, making the right choice the easy choice. We focused on belly fat and healthy habits in January, and then in February, we conquered sugar cravings and tackled brain fog. In March, we're going to work on tapping into the power of muscle to rev up metabolism. You see, muscle is highly metabolically active. It burns calories when you're vegging out doing nothing. Fat is more like storage, whereas muscle is like a furnace. That's why two people can weigh the same, eat the same, and burn very different numbers of calories because of muscle mass. Now, here's the problem. When you get to the ripe old age of about 30, you can start losing muscle. And then once menopause hits, muscle loss can accelerate dramatically if you're not intentional. When you have less muscle, your metabolic rate is slower, and that sets the whole cycle in motion. More weight gain, more insulin resistance, and more fatigue because your body is working so hard to keep all systems running. And one of the biggest systems that muscle affects is glucose metabolism. That's why muscles are critical to control blood sugar effectively. Your body breaks down carbohydrates into glucose, which circulates through your bloodstream. That sugar is then stored as glycogen. And where do you suppose these boxes of glycogen are stored? In your liver and your muscles. And it turns out that muscle is the largest glucose sink in the body. When you eat carbohydrates, muscle helps pull sugar out of the bloodstream. So if you have more muscle, that can lead to better regulation of your blood sugar. If you have wimpy muscles, that sugar can linger in your bloodstream. It sounds sweet, but in reality, when sugar lingers in the bloodstream, insulin stays high, and insulin's job is fat storage, especially around the belly. So having muscle is super important if you have prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, belly fat, or energy crashes. Muscles, oh muscles, let me count the ways you improve health. Muscles improve sensitivity to not only insulin, therefore regulating blood sugar, but also leptin, which is the satiety hormone that tells your brain your belly is full and you don't want any more food. Muscle acts as a buffer against stress, too, by improving how your body responds to cortisol. With more stable blood sugar levels, you might even sleep better. Now, metabolism kind of regulates itself, but it's like a toddler who wants to do it by myself, but then the result may be coloring on the walls. I've had a lot of women say to me, Dr. Vickie, I eat a balanced diet and I walk every day and I'm still struggling with belly fat, fatigue, and weight gain. The first thing I would tell you is let's work together. Go to healthylooksgreatonYou.com, the lab, and check out how you can join other women in the journey of putting into practice what you already know to do. Plus, if you missed January and February, don't worry, I've got you. You can get all of the content in a bundle. Now, it is better to link arms with other women in real time, but there's some good stuff in there and you don't want to miss it. Now, can I be honest with you about something? Walking is really, really, really good for your health. In fact, not walking about an hour a day is considered a high-risk behavior. But, and this is a big but, you need resistance training to build muscle. I know. You thought you needed protein, didn't you? Well, you aren't wrong as long as you understand that you need enough protein and not excess protein, and that protein by itself doesn't build muscle. And listen, quality of protein matters more than quantity. And you can get protein from a plant-forward diet, and yes, you have to be more intentional. If you are eating meat, you're likely getting all the protein you need without the Greek yogurt, protein bars, and protein powders added to your smoothie. But muscle absolutely requires more protein, and bonus, fiber also improves insulin sensitivity, which helps muscles do their job, and fiber is only found in plants. So grab a handful of sweet peas or spinach and add that to your smoothie, and you'll get that added bonus. Okay, now that we've cleared that up, let's work on building muscle. One word, resistance. No, I'm not talking about your resistance to go to the gym and lift weights. I'm talking about the weights. At a minimum, aim for strength training 2 to 3 times per week. You don't need fancy equipment. Bands, body weight, or dumbbells all count. Think of push-ups or dips, and yes, my triceps could stand a few more of those for sure. And look, my biceps are bulky, and part of that is genetic and years of gymnastics. I wish I had those long, lean muscles, but I do lift pretty heavy weights because as you get stronger, you have to increase your load progressively and gently to challenge yourself. So, the recipe for building fat burning muscle is resistance training, an adequate diet packed with nutrients, and you won't be surprised if I mention restorative sleep. You know, muscle is built in the gym, revealed in the kitchen, and repaired in the bed. When you're building a plan to improve your strength, you need a foundation of healthy habits and simple, doable steps. And that is exactly what we do in the Healthy Looks Great on You lab. And we're going to cover cardio exercise as well as strength training because you need both. Aerobic cardio activity is fantastic for heart health, improving mood, and enhancing endurance. Reminder, if you're walking to get your cardio, you need to be walking fast enough or at least exerting yourself enough that you do not have extra breath to sing. Bonus for walking hills because you will increase thigh strength, and that's associated with longevity. Stronger muscles is insurance against falls as you age, maintaining independence, and living longer and better. Strength training has a big impact on your metabolism. Cardio burns calories today, and muscle burns calories tomorrow. And muscle doesn't weigh more than fat, but it's more dense, which means you can get healthier even if the scale doesn't move much. And you know, that can be discouraging when you're working really hard and you don't see the needle move, or you might even see it go up a little bit. That's why instead of using a regular scale, I use a body pod. It's a fancy scale, but really it's an impedance monitor. So it measures your bone density and your muscle mass and your fat percentage. And it's been really fun for me to see my weight stay the same, my fat go down, and my muscle go up. And I wouldn't have seen that on a regular scale. So I put a link to the body pod that I use in the show notes. But even if you don't have access to a fancy scale, you can go by how your clothes fit and how strong you're getting. That tells a powerful story. If you want to support a healthy metabolism, then eat regular balanced meals built around whole plant foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Prioritize restorative sleep, and I know it's not that easy. Avoid extremes and quick fixes. They don't work and they don't last. And move your body. Because muscle is the key driver of long-term metabolic health and a healthy body. And healthy looks great on you.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.